In this lesson, we describe the tension between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson, describe the expansion of suffrage, explain Jackson's spoil system and his appeal to the common citizens, and summarize the effects of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. This is Andrew Jackson, President number 7, 1829 to 1837. Expanding democracy changes politics. There was a lot of tension between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson because they ran against each other for president in 1824. Andrew Jackson wins the popular vote, which means he gets the majority of the people's vote, but not the electoral vote, as you can be seen here on this election of 1824 map. You can clearly see that the votes needed to win is 131, and those are electoral votes. None of the candidates got anywhere near 131 votes. And so basically it's the job of the House of Representatives to determine who becomes president. John Quincy Adams is elected president with Henry Clay's support by the House of Representatives, which angers Andrew Jackson because he had the majority of the people's vote with 99. He had the popular people's vote with 151,271. 99 was the electoral votes. People who support Andrew Jackson claim that John Quincy Adams and Henry Clay had made a corrupt bargain and that John Quincy Adams had stolen the election. Jackson's supporters form the Democratic-Republican Party. They try to block Adams's policies, and Andrew Jackson starts campaigning for the election of 1828 as soon as the election of 1824 is over. Democracy and citizenship. Most states are going to ease voting qualifications between the election of 1824 and 1828. And they're going to stop requiring that people actually own property, or men actually own property to be able to vote. So by 1828, many more men become eligible to vote. New voters helped Jackson win the presidency in 1828. And you can clearly see by looking at this map representing the election of 1828, Andrew Jackson's areas that he won are clearly defined in yellow. And you can see that here he definitely wins the majority of the electoral vote, and with 178, and he wins the majority of the popular vote as well. So in 1828, Andrew Jackson is elected president. Jackson had a very different presidential style. He wanted to appeal to the common man, and common people liked him. Jackson claims that he is of humble origins, but really he does have money, and he is wealthy. Jackson accuses Adams of being an intellectual elitist, which means he's accusing John Quincy Adams of being better than everyone else, or thinking that he is. So by promoting himself as a man of the common people, Jackson is going to win the election of 1828 by a landslide and become president. Once Jackson becomes president, he initiates something called the spoils system. He limits appointees to federal jobs for 4-year terms, and he uses the spoils system to replace former appointees with his own friends. His friends become his primary advisors, and they were called the kitchen cabinet because of how familiar they were with Jackson. They were his friends, and they came in through the kitchen door in the White House. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 is a very controversial issue during the Jackson presidency. White settlers wanted to displace or assimilate Native Americans. Assimilation would be to have Native Americans take on the aspects of white culture, dress like white settlers, believe the same things that white settlers believed, things of that nature. Jackson really believes that the only solution is to move the Native Americans off their land. He believes that assimilating the Native Americans will not work because the Native Americans were resisting assimilation. He believed that there were too many troops needed to keep the white settlers out of Native American lands. He really believed that that just was not possible. So Congress in 1830 passes the Indian Removal Act. This act funds treaties to be able to force the Native Americans west and purchase their land for very little value. Jackson pressures some tribes to move, but he is going to use the army to forcibly remove others. The Cherokee is a tribe that decides to fight back, and they fight back the same way that the white settlers fight their issues, which is they go to court. So in the court case, Worcester versus Georgia, they sue saying that Georgia cannot take their land or force them off the land, and they actually win. The ruling is that the state cannot rule the Cherokee or invade their land. Unfortunately, Andrew Jackson ignores the court ruling. Some of the Cherokee are going to continue to fight the court fight, and a small amount of them just want to relocate and be done with it. Federal agents sign the treaty with the minority that are willing to relocate, and relocation begins. By 1838, there are only 20,000 Native Americans remaining, and President Martin Van Buren is going to order the final steps of their removal. The Trail of Tears. The Cherokee are sent west on the Trail of Tears, regardless of them winning the court case with Worcester versus Georgia. It was an 800-mile trip, and it was made on foot. Cherokee are robbed by the government officials along the way, by outlaws, and there's a lot of sickness and death along the way as well. 1 in 4 of the Cherokee die along the Trail of Tears. You can see here that the Cherokee originated in this area of Georgia, and there are different routes from different time periods that are shown by this map about the Trail of Tears. And then the Cherokee were actually forcibly moved 800 miles. They walked to settle in this area in Oklahoma before Oklahoma was actually admitted for statehood. The Trail of Tears, again, is a very controversial issue in the Jackson presidency, and one that we will discuss further in class.